Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is Michelle, and who's here with me?
It's JD.
It's JD. It's always JD, and it's always Michelle.
Every
and it's
time.
always our listeners, hopefully. Sometimes we don't
Not
hear
always
from
the
them again.
same listeners, but there's always listeners.
I do like that there's always a single person who listens to our shows, and that's me.
Yeah, wait, you listen to our shows?
Criticize. Yeah, I listen to every episode so that I can improve.
Oh my god.
I know you said you never listen to it. I listen because I go, I don't like the volume of this. I need to make sure I tweak that for next time. Ooh, I talked over JD and I did not like the way that sounded. Ooh, I don't like the way that I gave this review. Wow. I criticize myself. This is who I am.
No, it's the same reason I never, I rarely ran tape when I was doing stand-up, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I hate listening to myself on recording. So I just don't do it.
Like it. I do not like it, but I do
I would say over the course of our, I don't know for sure what number episode this is going to be as we're recording it here, but it's near 250. I think there are maybe 5 episodes ever that I've gone back and listened to.
Including The Substance. I'm really proud of that plot recap.
I listened to The Substance just recently. I did go back and listen to our Mad God episode at one point. That's the year one standout, by the way. If you're new to the podcast and you're looking for what other stuff, if you basically want to listen to a podcast which came up early on in our history that explains how brilliant a movie analyst I am, that's the one that you want to watch or listen to.
I love that because it's 100% accurate. Like, Mad God is just blew everything out of the water, and then you explained it, and I went, how the fuck did you come up with all this? And you're completely right.
I watched a lot of movies in my time, Michelle. Anyway,
you watched another movie.
Yeah, it's Spooktober. This year we're doing, for Spooktober, new episode every day, we're doing Halloween-themed movies. Some of them splattery, good horror, creepiness. Some of them, we're going to get into that with this one. Supposedly, a little bit more family-friendly spookums. And we're talking about a 1993 classic called Hocus Pocus. Michelle, I'm going to assume the answer is yes, but had you seen Hocus Pocus prior to watching it for the episode?
I had indeed.
How many times would you say you had seen Hocus Pocus? Was it a Halloween times favorite?
Yes. I was going to say I don't want to get into it too much because I got to save it for my review, but let's say I've seen it a bunch of times.
Okay, fair enough. I had never seen Hocus Pocus. No.
I knew that.
This is one of those movies that came out right when I was at a certain age where I was a early, junior high school, early teens boy who was actively rejecting anything that seemed like girl stuff. And that sort of thing. And this is just a movie that I never bothered to see and then just never bothered to get back around to seeing because I was always certain this is not a movie that I would enjoy. So I just never saw it and finally had an opportunity to watch it for the podcast. And here we are.
Here we are.
Yeah.
Should I read the IMDb descripty script and then we can?
I think you should. I think you should. If you if you would please.
Absolutely. Okay. IMDb descripty script. Hocus Pocus. A teenage boy named Max and his little sister move to Salem, where he struggles to fit in before awakening a trio of diabolical witches that were executed in the 17th century. Hocus Pocus, 1993, PG. An hour, 36 minutes. JD, would you like to hit us with your spoiler-free thoughts?
Sure, I would love to. First of all, that PG, we're going to have to talk about that. It's interesting to me in retrospect what qualified for a PG rating in 1993. This is a movie that ostensibly is some family friendly spookums. There's some stuff in this movie that frankly is kind of fucked up. There are also things in this movie that I feel I should have known that I never knew, and it's weird to me, not because I feel like anybody owed me to tell me. It just seems like the kind of stuff I would have heard about at some point, and then I never did. But I don't want to say what I'm talking about because it's going to be spoilery. Here's what I do want to say. I was very uncomfortable for quite a bit of this movie about the feelings that I was experiencing about 1993 playing a crazy lady, Sarah Jessica Parker. There's some stuff I'm going to have to unpack about Sarah Sanderson, and I hope you're prepared to deal with it. I actually really enjoyed this. I didn't know Mick Garris was involved in writing this. That definitely makes sense after seeing it. I do think it's a bit of a stretch that this is a PG movie, but no, this is real solid. I can definitely see why this is revered by as many people as it is. In fact, I even believe that I'm kind of glad I saw it now, because I do think if I had seen it 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago or whatever, I don't know that I would have had this same experience with it. But no, I really liked this. I'm giving this one a 4.
A 4 from JD.
Yeah.
Well,
Michelle?
yeah.
I would very much like to know now what your spoiler-free thoughts are on Hocus Pocus, as somebody who has clearly seen it jillions of times.
I would very much like to give those thoughts. And that is, this is a 5-skull movie. I fucking love Hocus Pocus. I've watched this movie so many times. The fact that it is edgy for a PG movie, there's a lot of adult content in here. Like, they're trying to hook up with the devil. We'll just say that. Like,
they get real caught up on virgin children in this movie.
They absolutely do. Yeah, there's a lot of like
spicy
adult content, and that was partially why I loved it as a kid. This felt edgy. Also, there's this thing on TikTok or social media in general called Hear Me Out. And it's where you take somebody who is not a real human being, usually a fictional character, a lot of animated characters, and you say, hear me out, and explain why you would want to fuck them. Thackeray Binks in cat form. Hear me out.
God.
Thackeray Binks as a cat. Yes, please. Jason Marsden voiced Max from a Goofy movie, and like, hear me out, Max from a Goofy movie. Like, that was a big part of what I love about this. I was talking to my friend Tristan about it, and Jason Marsden needs to understand that he unlocks some furry mindsets in a lot of us at a young age, and that alone, he is a sex symbol as a cat. I don't understand it. It's the voice. Bette Midler, fucking iconic. Sarah Jessica Parker, weird sexual feelings. Kathy and Jimmy has some of like the best lines in this whole thing. She, instead of a broom, she's riding around on a vacuum cleaner. Great fucking movie. And then we've got like Thora Birch is just a great character. Very annoying. I'm the oldest of 5, so her being a very annoying little sister resonated with me. I love Hocus Pocus. I'm so glad it still holds up. It's been a couple years since I saw it last. 5 skulls. Easy.
5 skulls for Michelle, 4 skulls for JD. That's a 4.5 skull Halloween movie for Hocus Pocus. Michelle, do you by chance have the chart right in front of you there? Is that the highest overall score that we've had for Spooktober so far?
It is tied with WNUF Halloween Special, which we gave the exact same scores of 5 and 4. And Dark Harvest also got 5 and 4. I'm giving a lot of 5s this Spooktober.
Wow, and I'm coming in just shy of those 5.
Yep,
but
those all had 5 from me, 4 from you.
No, that's dope. So this is one that we're gonna talk about in spoilery fashion here. Yeah. And apparently Michelle and I both have some things to unpack about Sarah Sanderson.
I don't need to unpack them. I'm fine with how I feel about her.
Oh man, I
got no issues.
Look, all I'm saying is it's probably a good thing that I didn't see this as like a 13-year-old boy. Is all I'm just gonna stop right
Would
there.
have shaped you forever.
It would have done something. That's for goddamn sure. Anyway, I mean, it did as a 43-year-old man, and that's probably more than you wanted to know. So anyway, we'll go ahead and move on to the spoiler section here if you don't want us to spoil the film.
Yeah, this movie from 1993 that you definitely were waiting for our thoughts on it before you watched it.
Michelle, I believe I just explained that this is the first time there are, as much as you find it so hard to believe, there are people who have not seen a film from 1993.
I
and
believe
just because
that.
they haven't
I don't
seen
believe,
it yet doesn't mean they deserve to have it spoiled.
I don't believe that after 31 years they're going to be like, this is the push I needed to pause the episode, open up Disney Plus, and go watch Hocus Pocus.
That's fair.
Yeah. This
right,
one
so
probably not so much.
We're in the spoiler section, so let's skip past the plot review for now, right? And Michelle, let's just talk. How far into this movie were you, and which time viewing it was it? Like, how far into which viewing was it when you realized you kind of wanted to fuck Sarah Sanderson?
Well, I never really wanted to fuck Sarah Sanderson. I found her very sexy. I want to fuck the cat.
Oh my God.
See, you got to unpack the Sanderson sisters. I'm over here being like, why is this cat hot? I have bigger problems.
It's not even really an unpacking. It's just like that character hits, and I know you know exactly what, like, it hits so many notes of things that
hot.
I like, oh, wow.
No, I'm saying that's my thing. I like them very dumb or very smart.
First of all, she's not dumb at all.
She's not dumb.
Sarah Sanderson is not dumb. She's crazy. She's a loony bin, but she's not dumb. You take that back, or this podcast might be over.
She's smart about different things than I think she should be smart about.
And this is, I took a second thought at it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of mean, but I think also people will understand what I mean. It's like, I had no idea that Sherry Moon Zombie adopted her entire acting career from Sarah Sanderson and Hocus Pocus. Like, that's what she's been doing.
You are not the first person to make that comparison.
She's just doing Sarah Sanderson, right? I said doing Sarah Sanderson, and that's gonna stick with me anyway. No, first of all, I've always found Sarah Jessica Parker to be a particularly attractive woman, just as it is. But just the way they had her made up, and just that sort of like crazy, and also like not timid, but like it's like a faux timid, right? But also it's like, oh, she's just waiting to rip your fucking throat out. I don't know. I had to sit with my feelings about that for a while. That would have been a lot to deal with at 13. Holy shit. Okay, I got that out. Do you want to do a plot summary for these people, or would you like to talk about how much you want to fuck the cat?
I don't think I want to talk about it. I also know that cats have barbed penises, so this is a massive problem in more ways than one.
Oh, well, I mean, there are different ways to fuck things, That's...
I gotta get creative about it. Okay.
That's a fucking t-shirt and a bumper sticker and everything. There's different ways to fuck things.
Yep. Words of wisdom. Jesus Christ.
Ooh.
Oh, this episode's never coming out. No. Okay,
yeah, I'm pretty sure it already came out.
Oh my God. Okay, I'll do
that was a closet joke, not a.
Yeah. I'm trying not to think of him as a physical being. It's just the voice. Because he's also Max from a Goofy movie. And Max was like my number one crush growing up. And he's like 90% a dog.
Yeah.
But he wears big baggy jeans. And I've never met a dog who does that. And apparently that's what I'm into. Listen, people are masturbating to Zootopia. Leave me be. I have my icons. Okay.
I didn't say anything, Michelle. What I would like for you, do you think you're prepared after jillions of viewings of this film to summarize what happens?
I think so. And the worst part is there's so much of this that I could recite word for word that I know I'm just going to leave chunks out because I'm like, oh, I clearly talked about that.
It's all right.
Okay. It is not 1900s, 1600s, something or another. And it's Halloween night. And the Sanderson girls, they have stolen a little girl. And you don't want to do that because responsibility sucks. And now you have a little girl that you have to deal with. But luckily, they're not going to keep her alive. They are going to suck her essence and become young and beautiful. And Thackeray, dumbest fucking name in the world, Thackeray. It sounds like I'm saying Zachary with a lisp. Thackeray, if your name is Thackeray, like, I'm so sorry if your parents named you Thackeray, but there is time to legally change it or just go by Thack. It's not great. But Thackeray is Emily's brother and he goes to rescue her and he does not succeed. And his little sister, oh my God, he is dying. Oh, onward with the fuckable cat. So the three sisters they kill the little girl and they take her essence. And Sarah Jessica Parker, now she's doing things to JD because she is very hot. And they're like, hey, you don't get to die. What we're going to do is make you live forever with the guilt that you could not save your sister. And how are we going to do that? You're going to be a very sexy cat for 300 years. So they turn him into a cat. And then the village people show up and they're like, hey, we heard that you have a little girl and you shouldn't do that. And they're like, what? And then they decide to hang them or burn them. I don't remember which way they die, surprisingly. I think they were hanged. And then they sing a little song. And if you sing a little song, it means you can come back to life if a candle is lit by a virgin. That's the rule of thumb. Yes, JD.
They were hanged, yes.
I thought so. Okay. I'm taking a sip of water, so that was a great time for you to correct me. Okay, perfect. So, it is now 300 years later, and Max, I mean, we were talking about how hot the cat is, but like Max is also pretty hot. This is just full of really sexy people. Especially, it came out in 1993. I was very young when I watched this. I just grew up with thinking these were the hottest people alive. This is the standard that everybody lives up to. It's Max from Hocus Pocus and his super confident way of hitting on the one girl from high school, where he's just like, hey, if so-and-so shows up, why don't you give me a call? And I'm like, oh my God, he's so LA. I'm so into it. So we got Max and he just moved to this town. Maybe you've heard of it. It's Salem. Of course it takes place in Salem. It's a witch movie. And he moved there from LA, which is just a big culture shock. And it is Halloween and his little sister, played by Thora Birch, she wants to go trick-or-treating. Her name is Danny. And she's like, you have to take me trick-or-treating. And then in the moment that always like got on my nerves, but also I related to so much, he says he doesn't want to take her trick-or-treating. And the way that she screams mom is such like a visceral memory because I both did that and my siblings did that. I know that exact scream and how to do it. And watching this again tonight, I was like, fuck, I haven't thought about like that particular way to scream for your parents in a long time and how annoying but successful it is, because that is the sound that a parent will come running towards you because they think your sibling has a hammer. And sometimes they do have a hammer and you're just trying to get into your room and close the door because you know that they're coming after you with a hammer. And that's when the parents step in, usually, if they're good.
Children learn gaslighting at a very early age is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Max, he finally decides to take Danny trick-or-treating. They wind up at the house of the hot high school lady whose name I've forgotten, and it doesn't matter. She's hot high school lady as far as I'm concerned. I hate that I actually forgot it though, and now I do need to. Allison, there we go. I should know all these names. So Allison, they wind up at her house. She's rich, so that's another thing she's got going for her. She seems pretty smart, so that's good too. And she's like, hey, do you want to go to the museum about the Sanderson sisters that my family owns because we have so much fucking money that we can just own a witch museum and not even take in any revenue from doing admissions, or ticket admissions and tours and things because spooky stuff happens there. And he's like, hell yeah, rich lady, let's go do that. So they go, and then he sees a candle and he hears the legend about how if it's lit by a virgin, or he reads the legend about how if it's lit by a virgin on Halloween night, then the ladies will come back. And he goes to light it and the fucking cat shows up and he's like, meow, because that's what cats do. And then Max is like, man, cats fucking suck, and lights the candle anyway, and it turns black and the sisters are back. And Max, you fucking idiot, because Max was a virgin and he didn't believe in all of this hocus pocus. Oh, he said it. I love that moment just because I'm like, oh, that's the name. I miss when movies would just say the name of the movie and everyone would go, yeah, like that was a thing. We need to bring that trope back. I need people to really start like hyping up the name of the movie and being like, oh, it's a bunch of hocus pocus, and look directly at the camera when you do it, please. But the sisters are back and they're like, oh, little girl, we love little girls because that's how we stay alive forever. And they go after Danny. And the entire movie is Max trying to help put these sisters back to death and trying to keep Danny safe. And also, he has a pet now. The pet is Thackeray Binks. And there's a weird, okay, my relationship with Thackeray Binks is weird, but at the end of the movie, Thackeray turns back into a human ghost and then kisses Danny on the cheek, and the entire time it had been kind of like a sisterly relationship, but that moment felt very romantic, and that gets weird. My thing for a cat, understandable when he's voiced by the guy who voiced Max from a Goofy movie, but dude, that's a ghost and a little girl, and I'm not okay with that. Also, just stay away from my fucking man. He might turn back into a cat, and I'll be into that. So they're trying to keep the witches away, and they have the Necronomicon, and that is the sisters' book, and they think that they have defeated the sisters, and they're trying to think of a way to bring Thackeray back to being. I cringe every time I have to say Thackeray Binks. We're just gonna say Binks because that's his name as a cat. So they are trying to think like, can we make Binks human again? And they open the book, and they're not supposed to do that. Now the sisters are aware of where the book is, and they're coming after the whole gang of kids, and they wind up in a graveyard with Doug Jones at one point playing Billy, one of my favorite characters from this whole movie. Billy swears in a PG movie. Oh, he's so feisty. I forgot Doug Jones plays Billy Butcherson, and I was really happy to be reminded of that. So that's I think it was Mary's ex boyfriend who slept with Sarah, so then she cursed him to have his mouth sewn shut and be essentially a zombie. So now it's like the sisters versus Max, Allison, Thora Birch, a fuckable cat, and a zombie. So it's a real good time. And they wind up how does it work? So Max is going to drink the vial and sacrifice himself to save Danny, and he does that, and then his sisters start soaking up his essence, and then the sun comes up right at that moment. They've run out of time. They become stone. The cat becomes a human ghost. The zombie goes back to bed. And then I'm assuming that Max and Allison hook up so that he can't light any more candles next year and fuck everything up. Like, for the good of the community, somebody needs to fuck Max because he's clearly too dumb to be around candles. Because what were you fucking thinking, bro? You brought back the Sanderson sisters. There's also a sequel to this that I've forgotten how it begins, but I'm assuming there's another dumbass guy who is a virgin and should not be lighting any candles and does it anyway. Hocus Pocus.
Hocus Pocus. I'm told the sequel apparently tries to write some kind of redemption arc for the Sanderson sisters.
True. It does. It's not bad. It's just forgettable.
Oh, so you have seen it.
Yes, I watched it once. It came out like a couple years ago, and that's the last time I saw Hocus Pocus. The first one, because I wanted to prepare for the second. And it feels like authentic to the initial characters, but it also does something that they do a lot in sequels that I wind up disliking, which is they're trying to like replay a lot of the same material, and instead of like building on it more. And
yeah,
it does
Legacy
try to build a redemption arc, and yeah,
Legacy sequels are real challenging sometimes. We are here to talk about the OG, though. Hocus Pocus. First of all, how the fuck, Michelle, how did I make it to 2024 without knowing? Now, I get it. They don't call it that in the movie. They don't explicitly call it that. But now, especially knowing that Mick Garris wrote this movie, how did I make it to 2024 without anybody, not even just by accident, like coming across in an article or like some BuzzFeed, like 10 appearances of what blah, blah, blah in the movies that you may have missed? How did it take until the first time I actually watched this movie before I knew the motherfucking Necronomicon was in this?
I have already come up with a solution to this problem. Obviously, it won't remedy that you didn't watch this one until 2024, but we need a website similar to doesthedogdie.com, but does the movie have the necronomicon.com, and you can just type in a movie title and it will tell you yes or no, and then you can know if you should prioritize a movie.
I think it would be a lot easier to just have a website that was a list of movies that feature the Necronomicon. I don't know that you would need to build a searchable database, but I just
don't want
like
to have it spoiled for me though. If I'm looking up one specific movie and then I see that a different movie has the Necronomicon and I'm like, whoa, I want to go into that one blind. What do you mean the new Cinderella movie is about the Necronomicon? I didn't see that coming. Like, I want to be thrown out. There's a new Cinderella movie, by the way.
Anyway, so very obviously the
Cinderella
Necronomicon, they tell you that it's bound in human flesh. They never specifically say it, but if memory serves, the ink is a sort of deep red color as if it were blood. It's got an eyeball sewn into the... It's the motherfucking Necronomicon. And this movie was 31 years old. And I'd never, and that's just, how did that happen? That's so wild to me. But anyway, that's like the jumping off point, because this movie gets like even that first season, or that first scene, that opening in the 1600s, it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna open this movie murdering a child.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And then it's like super, like, man, they talk about kids fucking a lot in this movie. Like, they really dig into it, and it's very much like that, like, oh, you're a virgin, is like, no, I'm not. This whole, like, it's a shameful thing.
I mean, Max is getting, like, he's about to masturbate. Pretty much, where he's like, oh, Allison in his bed, and his sister busts out of his closet. Like, this is a very sexual PG movie.
Yeah, and it's a sexual
Jessica
PG
Parker
movie about
sex bot.
Children.
Yep.
Like,
that's partially what I loved. I loved how edgy it was as a kid.
Yeah, well, and I can definitely understand that, and I think I could definitely see, though, how parents at the time might have been like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like, I don't ever remember hearing about there being any controversy over the film, but I imagine there were a few parents here or there who were like, ooh, you maybe shouldn't have seen that at 10. Maybe more like a 15 would be a little more appropriate. But no, so like that, I was sort of amazed. I thought the Black Flame Candle was a brilliant. There is so much about this as I was watching it, Michelle, and I haven't really done a lot of research. But first of all, knowing that it was, again, written by Mick Garris, and if you're not familiar, Mick Garris has written a lot of stuff and directed a lot of stuff. He's the tall, slender fellow with the long white hair that you see in everything. He did this movie. He did The Fly 2. He did host. He was a producer on Masters of Horror, the TV series. He's been in a lot of stuff. Anyway, I find myself wondering if this didn't originate as a much darker film, because there are some things in here, like, this feels at times like it may have been like our intent was like a rated R, like fucking like a horror film. And it could very easily get there. Like, I don't know. I just, there were moments where I was just like, how the fuck that but I just had a complete derailment of thought. Michelle, you're going to have to take over from here. Please help.
It was very dark, and you thought it might be darker, is essentially what you were going
Yeah. Have you ever considered that, or do you know anything about that as a fan of the film?
Had not considered, and actually I'm now thinking that I don't know a lot about the behind the scenes of this movie. I just watched it so many times, similar to our Casper episode that we had. It would have come out just a couple days ago.
Sure.
Like, I think 2 days ago exactly. It was our last like family friendly one, where I just have like, I have seen this so many fucking times, but I saw it as a younger person. And this, if it came out like today and I loved it, I could go on the internet. But at the time, I just had a VHS tape that I could rewind and watch it again or watch it on Disney. They played this one a lot on Disney, and they edited out a lot when they showed it on
Oh,
Disney.
I bet.
Yeah, or like ABC Family would play this one, I think, if I
Yeah.
recall.
I mean, this is a 96-minute movie. I imagine the edited for TV version is barely over an hour.
Yeah, no, they cut out a lot. So yeah, I never actually looked into it. I would love a gritty reboot of Hocus Pocus where it's the much darker one, but this is already, like I said, this was a huge edgy movie for me as a kid.
Here's what I like about it, and there's a part of me that feels like even if it did start as something darker, that what they got here was intentional, because I feel like this reminds me so much of classic fairy tales, right? Mm-hmm. Where it like if you just skim over the details, or you get a multiple generations down the road version of it that's been cleaned up a little bit, but there's all these little threads of darker things going on underneath it. And I feel like that was a really interesting tone that a certain amount of movies try for, but this one really got, right? It definitely has that veil of innocence in a very enjoyable way, and I really like the tone of it. Again, that being said, though, I do agree with you. I am curious, because I'm rarely a fan of things where people are like, let's take this thing and make it super dark and grim. That was never meant to be super dark and grim. But the difference there is this clearly was something that was, to an extent, meant to be kind of dark and grim. Let's just adjust the contrast a little bit, right? I'd be curious to see what that would be like.
Yeah, I am doing, while you were talking, I was doing just a quick Google hunt just to see if, like, it comes up immediately as, like, oh, Mick Garris wanted this to be darker, and I'm not finding anything. Then again, it's from 1993, so it's an older movie that maybe is just not, people weren't talking about in internet articles, but I want to know.
Yeah. In the production section on Wikipedia, it does say Hocus Pocus started life as a script by Mick Garris that was brought to Walt Disney Pictures in 1984. The film's working title was Disney's Halloween House. It was much darker and scarier, and its protagonists were all 12-year-olds.
Oh.
They had originally
starring children.
They had initially, I guess, pitched it to Steven Spielberg and Amblin, but it ended up getting picked up by Disney to make it, it was rewritten to make it more comedic and such. Let's see here. Anyway, let's continue talking about this film. Really enjoyed the special effects here. I like it, this. You know what this reminds me of? I think the perfect way to describe it is if the early '90s Addams Family film with Raul Julia and Angelica Houston, Christina Ricci, Christopher Lloyd. Mm-hmm. If that film is one side of an interesting combination of creepy and horrifying, like this film is in a lot of ways sort of like the other side of that coin. Does that make sense to you? It's still a little bit of the weirdness, but it goes a little further, right? It's a little bit more aggressive. It's not, it's like an evolution, a next step up from a movie like Addams Family. Do you think that's a good estimate of what this is? Validate me, Michelle.
I will say sure. I'm thinking like, yeah, I see it being in the same family, pun intended. I don't feel like the linear not transgression,
translation.
Yep. Nope. It's fine. It's a word. As I said in the last episode, I know what I mean, and that's all that matters. No. But I'm saying I get what you're saying, and I don't disagree with it. I would say they're in the same kind of family, but I also am just thinking of like dark, horror comedies that were family friendly as a kid, and Casper would also be in that list. So like just kind of that era had stuff that kind of pushed the envelope, and they were all like my favorite ones growing up.
I just happened to be looking at the IMDb page while you were talking here, and I had sort of spaced it out, but I saw a clip of Kathy Najimy riding a vacuum, and I'm like, I don't know, I love that. It's fucking hilarious, and it's something
it's one of the funniest things that happens in this movie when she hops on that vacuum. God.
Yeah, it's wild. That was so great. Just a lot of these three actresses clearly just chewing scenery. I've been a Kathy Najimy fan since Sister Act, which, by the way, Sister Act and especially Sister Act 2, Back in the Habit, fucking fantastic films. If you've never seen them, go home and change your life. But no, they all three clearly just saw an opportunity to just ham it the fuck up, and goddamn did they all just, like, they were all fully like, this works because all three of them are completely committed to how utterly fucking ridiculous this is, and you have to admire that. It's fabulous. This does not work if they are not as fully on board as they were here. This was really awesome.
They all have such very strong and different personalities. So that's the thing, too. You can latch on to one of the sisters, and that sister can be your favorite because it's not just like three generic witches. You have Bette Midler, who's mean and controlling and the leader, but a boss bitch. You've got Sarah Jessica Parker, who is arguably dumb. I say arguably because JD does not think so, but she's fucking crazy. And then you've got Mary, who is just like so fucking funny. She is the funniest of the sisters, and she was always my favorite one.
Yeah, and I as you say that, like, I was looking at some, and like in some character summaries, like on IMDb and such, it does indicate that this character is apparently supposed to be dim-witted, and I don't know if perhaps just my general sense of like, about that character was kind of, it just never struck me that she was supposed to be dumb. I thought she was just kind of like disconnected from reality.
Yeah.
But,
I get that, but dumb people are also kind of disconnected from reality.
Well, you're not wrong. They're not. I guess I was just a little bit more forgiving. She's so pretty.
I mean, I know she is very pretty. But that's how you know she's dumb. You can't be pretty and smart. That's not fair to the rest of us below average women. You have to choose one.
Stop it.
Listen, I'm in therapy. It's fine. I'm all about the self-deprecating, and it's fine. And I'm working on it with my therapist. But I'm really glad that I watched Hocus Pocus after today's therapy appointment so that I don't have to go in there and be like, listen, I have thoughts about Sarah Jessica Parker, and it's not fair to the rest of us.
I don't think that's the kind of thing you're talking about those thoughts. I was like, I'm definitely not going to talk to my therapist about my thoughts about Sarah Jessica Parker as Sarah Sanderson in Hocus Pocus. That's between me and her, and he doesn't need to know that shit.
I should probably not tell my therapist about me trying to fuck the cat.
Here's the fun thing about
physically, there's many ways to have sex.
There are many ways to fuck. There are different ways to fuck people. Fuck things. That's what I said. Fuck things.
Yep.
Anyway, here's an interesting experience about this is, even though I have never seen the film, for the last decade or so, I have been a trivia host for various bar trivia organizations, and have done many themed games. And around Halloween, we have quite frequently done games where they had a theme round, or sometimes the entire game is about this movie. So there are little details, right, that I picked up along the way, and I was like, oh, that's Thackeray Binks, and oh, Black Flame Candle. And here's the thing, Michelle, even in all of those goddamn Hocus Pocus trivia games I've hosted, not a single one of them, at any point whatsoever, mentions the Necronomicon. I don't know if I'm ever going to get over this. First of all, I should have known that Hocus Pocus is an H.P. Lovecraft Cthulhu Mythos movie. The Necronomicon is there. It qualifies.
He's just called The Book. He just happens to look like the Necronomicon.
Right, he's bound in human flesh, inked in blood.
Okay, hear me out. the book from Hocus Pocus.
It's the
Hear me
Necronomicon.
out. No, the hear me out thing is things you want to fuck. The book from Hocus Pocus.
Oh, okay, yeah, I totally forgot
He's
about
kind
that
of hot.
already.
He's got that one eye that just looks at you.
Oh,
That
that's
one eye has a lot of expression in it.
it's a very
Communicate with
riz.
Morse code.
It got a lot of riz, that eye.
Yep, got a lot of ruse.
I
This
can't
is such a
ever say that
sexual movie.
again.
It's so good.
It is in some ways where I was like, oh, all I'm saying is I'm glad I'm not a parent, because I would definitely let them watch this and then I'd feel really awkward about it afterwards.
I wouldn't let my kids do anything they found fun. Ever.
Oh, is that how you do it?
Yeah.
Oh. See, that's why I
why I don't
shouldn't
have
be a
kids.
parent, because I didn't know
Yeah.
you shouldn't do that.
No, they should never be happy or have any sort of fun or enjoyment. So they would never be allowed to watch this movie.
Oh,
Only National Geographic and only the episodes where an animal dies.
so my parents did it all wrong, and that explains what's wrong with me.
Exactly. Yep,
Oh,
I'm glad
okay.
that I could help you.
Well, there's a therapy portion, and I don't see any reason to bother with a podcast anymore. If I have a sudden newfound sense of self-worth and value, you guys can all fuck off. I'm out of here.
Perfect. I can go to sleep.
Can you, Michelle? Can
Well,
you
I'm going to
really?
be up late thinking about that book, though.
Can you drug yourself to sleep, Michelle?
Yeah, that's how I have to do it.
that's
Otherwise, I
so-
flail. I have sleep disorders. I have not told the audience about it. I flail. I fight. It's a problem.
Yeah, I got lots of sleep problems too. It's sleep.
One of my problems is that I'm not asleep.
Sleep is hard to come by when your fucking brain won't shut up.
About Sarah Jessica Parker.
Oh God damn it! I'm just saying. Oof. I had to back up off of it and set my cup down for just a minute. You know what I mean? Tanker ain't chronic. I'm fucked up now. Ain't no stopping. I'm still popping. Dre got some ladies from the city of Compton to serve me. Not with the cherry on top. But I don't want to finish that song.
Okay, sounds good.
Rolling
Should we call it
down
good
the
then?
street. Why did I all of a sudden just get caught up in gin and juice? I don't know where that came from.
I don't know, but I hate gin. So
How do you feel about juice though?
I love juice.
Well, then,
I will have a gin and juice, but hold the gin, please. Just get me like a little sippy cup of apple juice at the bar. That's me.
you get a hard crispin cider.
It's like
Angry
snowman.
Orchard?
I know what Angry Orchard is. But it's like Paul from the Snowman, the Kamikaze Snowman. Hey Paul, if you're listening. And Sarah gave him a sippy cup, and he still managed to spill it at her last event.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
imagine that's a story that he would rather not be going around, and that's exactly
he
the
told
kind
everybody.
of. Oh, did he? Oh, well.
Yeah.
He's an interesting man then.
Yeah.
We love you,
it was
Paul.
Hilarious. Yeah, love you, Paul.
Paul's a good boy. Anyway, yeah, so Hocus Pocus, this was a lot of fun. I'll definitely be checking this out again in the future when the spooky seasons comes around, or when I'm feeling lonely. I'm gonna cry. So I don't really have anything else to say about Hocus Pocus. Do you have anything else to say about Hocus Pocus, Michelle?
No, I'm glad that I got to rewatch it, and I pretty much used to watch it every Halloween.
Right
I did
on.
not watch it last year.
Right
I'm glad that I
on.
did.
All right, guys. House of a Thousand Corpses tomorrow. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.
For more horror content, visit WeWatchShutter.com, where you'll find our world-famous, patent-pending Ghoul blog and Squelch files, as well as a schedule of upcoming episodes. Find us on social media at WeWatchShutter on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and I guess Twitter if you're still doing that for whatever reason. You can email us. mail@WeWatchShutter.com is the address. mail@WeWatchShutter.com. You can even call and leave us a voicemail, 701-566-9510. No, really. 701-566-9510. Give it a shot. See what happens. We Watch Shutter is a production of Rat Factory Media. there are different ways to fuck things, you know?